Hello, guys. Welcome to Module 7. If you have stayed this long, I'd like to say congratulations. You're on your way to creating an amazing brand that will earn you so much money. There's so much money in the cosmetic industry, in the beauty space, right? So, let's just get started. Today's topic is cosmetic ingredients and usage rates. So, the reason why you are going to be a cosmetic formulator and not just a DIYer is because you understand cosmetic ingredients and their usage rate. You're not going to be following recipes or measuring ingredients with spoons, but you'll be measuring ingredients like a scientist because you're a cosmetic scientist, right? So every cosmetic ingredient has a particular usage rate. Using it at the lowest or highest range does not make it less or more effective. So, for example, we have an ingredient like kojic acid. Its usage rate is between 1 to 4% in wash-off products. Using kojic acid at 4% doesn't mean it is more effective than using it at 1%. You just need to know the perfect product, the perfect raw material or the perfect ingredient to combine with your kojic acid. So in order to get the lightening, brightening effect from that particular ingredient. Also, okay, so does not make it less or more effective. It depends on what you want the final aesthetics of your product to be. Also, the final outlook of your product will determine how much of that product you'd like to use in your cosmetic formulation. And this brings us to my next topic, which is factors to consider when formulating a product. These factors will let you know what products, what raw materials to choose, and just the technique of uh, that particular cosmetic formulation. Number one on my list, I have final product aesthetics. So, for example, when formulating skincare products, let's say in your mind you have that, oh, you want to produce white lotion. This means you have to avoid colored ingredients that will affect the final color of your product. That's what we mean by final product aesthetics. So, for example, if you're trying to produce a white lotion, you want your lotion's final look to be white. For example, you would like to avoid mulberry fruit extract. This is not because mulberry fruit extract is bad, but mulberry fruit extract is either purple or pink. If you include mulberry fruit extract in your product formulation, it is definitely going to change the color, especially if you're using the purple variant. It is going to change the final color of your product. Also, if you do not want your product to have a particular smell, you need to consider the um you need to consider the raw material that goes into your product, right? So, for example, if you have maybe oils like coconut oil or shea butter that have like a particular smell, especially on refined shea butter, it makes sense for you to add other aesthetic ingredients that helps to improve the smell so that you can get rid of that shea butter smell, especially if you don't want your product smelling like shea butter. Also, we have your product and goal. Okay, so your product and goal as a to a great extent should determine the ingredients you incorporate into your skincare products. So let's say, for example, you're trying to make a face cream um, that treats acne. You want to incorporate those ingredients that can treat acne and get rid of acne and prevent acne. You don't just want to select just any ingredient because it is nice and it works. You actually want to select an ingredient that will do exactly what you have told customers that the product does. Also, a very, 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 very important factor is solubility. So, is your ingredients water soluble or oil soluble or glycol soluble? So the solubility of your ingredient is very important. So for example, if you're trying to make like glow oil or body oil, now you for body oil, you want to stick to ingredients that are oil soluble. This is because if you add ingredients that are water soluble or glycol soluble, when you add those ingredients to the oil, it will not dissolve, thereby wasting the product and just spoiling the aesthetics of the product. Your oil will look grainy, it will feel grainy and will look some sort of way because you have a particular ingredient that is not oil soluble that has been added to the product. For example, we have vitamin B3, vitamin B5, those are water soluble, and you do not want to add them to body oils because it will not dissolve, right? So you want to look at oil soluble ingredients like sepi white, like sim white, a fruit acid oil soluble, bromelain, vitamin C. You want to look at, there are different variants of vitamin C anyway. Also, you want to look at oil soluble vitamin C in your product. So solubility is very, 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 very important. And for instance, if you want to, okay, another important thing I would like to talk about for all soluble product is some raw materials dissolve at a particular temperature, and when it starts to cool down, then it starts to crystallize. A very, very important a very good example of that is kojic dipalmitate. So kojic dipalmitate is oil soluble at about, I think, 70 degrees Celsius, but 70 or I think between 70 to 75 degrees Celsius. But when the solution starts to cool, then it starts to crystallize. In this case, you cannot include kojic dipalmitate as one of the active ingredients in your body oil because guess what? It is going to crystallize and look messy, and you really do not want that. What you can use, a product you can use kojic dipalmitate to formulate is maybe an hydrous body butter. That way, the kojic dipalmitate would just blend into the butters and is not going to be visible. Is not going to be visible, but you cannot add it to body oil. When we get to our practical formulation, I am going to show you. I'm going to use these ingredients so you can see what to do and what to expect when you use these ingredients. Another thing I want to talk about with solubility is, let's say for example you're making face toners and you have some, because face toner is mostly water based, but you can incorporate you can incorporate emulsifiers like polysorbate 80, polysorbate 20 to disperse the oil in water. When we get to facial product formulation, you understand. what I'm talking about. So let's move on. Also, another factor to consider when formulating a product is temperature. You need to consider the temperature of your active ingredients. At what temperature are they still stable, right? So some ingredients need to be added to cool down phase. Some ingredients need to be heated up before you can include it to to your formulation. So you really need to know the difference between some of the temperature at which you need to formulate these ingredients with. So when we get to practical, you fully understand this also. Also, I think I've mentioned this before, the potential hydrogen of the ingredients or of the potential hydrogen of your final product. So let's say, for example, you're formulating a face toner. Usually, face toners, your pH shouldn't be above 5.5. So between 4.5 to 5.5. If you, for when formulating a face toner, you want to incorporate active ingredients or raw materials that have a pH stability of the pH of your final product. So, for example, let's say your final product needs to be a pH of 4.5. If you're using a pH of 4.5, you cannot incorporate niacinamide, which is vitamin B3, in your toner, for example, because niacinamide is only stable at a pH of 6. It is not, you are not going to reap the benefit of niacinamide in that toner. And guess what? It's at a lower pH or higher pH, niacinamide turns to some different chemical component, right? So you really want to avoid that. Another thing you want to consider is compatibility of preservatives. So um uh just like raw materials, preservative also work at a particular pH. Some preservative work for lower pH, some work for a higher pH, but you want to choose maybe a broad spectrum preservative that can preserve your product from molds and from microbes and has a wide pH. So there are preservatives that have a pH between 3 to I think 9. So that is a very wide pH and it can generally be used in almost any product because nobody wants to even produce products whose pH is like really high, and because that can really affect the skin, right? So when we get to practical formulation classes, you understand this better. Also, another factor to consider is the required percentage of each ingredient. Okay, so like I said, like in the previous slide, the fact that the ingredients has a particular percentage doesn't mean it works better at the higher percentage or it works is less effective at the lower percentage. Also, if you have if you have are choosing active for your ingredients, I've seen a lot of newbies in the cosmetic space just put together a bunch of lightning ingredient because they think it to be so effective, right? No, some ingredients will actually can actually cancel out themselves, and you can just really mess up your client's skin. So you want to make sure you make use of a reasonable number of active ingredients uh, a, at a reasonable usage rate, right? So when we get to formula development, you're going to understand this better. I'm going to teach you how to develop your own unique formula. So I'd like you to stay tuned to this channel. Let's go on. So another thing to consider is comedogenicity. So in previous models, we have discussed the comedogenicity of body oils and body butters. As a rule, I would say you should stick to the, body oils and body butter between the comedogenic rating of 0 to 3. Anything above 3 is likely to clog your customers' pores, and you really want to stay away from oils or butters that are high on the comedogenic scale, except you're looking to treat a particular skin condition like eczema or dry skin, in which the person needs like serious moisture on their skin, right? So you really want to consider comedogenicity. I would like you to go back and watch the video on comedogenic rating of oils and butters, just to refresh your memory, right? That's in case you have forgotten. But comedogenicity is very important because, for example, if you're trying to produce, let's say, a lotion for all skin types, you don't want to use body oils that will affect maybe sensitive skin or dry skin or oily skin. You want to make sure that in your product, the oils that you have made use of are oils that would benefit all skin types, since you're looking to produce a lotion for all skin types. Another factor to consider when formulating a product is good manufacturing practices. I will not be talking so much about that because that is a different, that will be in our next module, and like it's really wide, so it just makes sense that I talk about that in a different module. Lastly, packaging. So packaging is very important when you formulate your product, right? So for example, when you formulate a body cream, because body creams are like really thick, they are not supposed to be in like a bottle or in a pump bottle, because guess what, it is not, you're not going to be able to dispense it easily. Same with body oils. You cannot put body oils in a jar. It is going to spill, right? Even probably before it gets to the end user, it is probably going to spill while it is being delivered. So you really need to consider what the final outlook of your product will be for you to choose a packaging. I hope you have benefited from this class. I would like you to comment with your questions in the comment section, and I will be there to respond to every of your questions. Thank you, and I will see you in the next module.